Are new to the conversation, we want to welcome you to my journal. And if you are returning, welcome back. You're watching this TriCast on YouTube and Facebook Live and LinkedIn. So as you come into the conversation, be sure to like and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you will be one of the first ones to be notified. Today, we're going to talk about recording the police officers. You can hardly go anywhere these days, whether it's to the grocery store or to restaurants, even on a busy intersection in your city, in urban or suburban areas, without there being some type of video surveillance. Most of those cameras are either controlled by, or the police have access to those video cameras, and they didn't even ask your permission. If they did ask your permission, it was through a vote, probably a municipal vote, and the voting public in that area would agree to allow that to happen for the greater good, so that police officers have access to what's going on, and because they tout it as we're trying to keep you safe. So police officers have set up the system so that they can videotape you, but some of them don't want to reciprocate. Some of them want to be able to videotape you, but they don't want you to be able to videotape them. In fact, some legislatures are trying to get laws passed using the wiretapping laws that prevent citizens from videotaping police during police activities on the street. A couple of years ago, I wrote a column about how at that time, some state legislators were trying to pass laws that would prevent people from peaceful protests. And they also wanted to curb any charges that might come against those who would attack those protesters. But you know what happened? James Fields happened in Charlottesville when he killed Heather Heyer during the Charlottesville protest in 2017. He's now been convicted of murder, but had some state legislatures had their way, those charges would not have been able to be brought against James Fields. And those protesters might have been able to be charged with heavier charges than James was. But that didn't happen. Now, since they couldn't keep us from protesting, now they're trying to keep us from videotaping what happens by bully, liar, killer cops during protests, or what happens by bully, liar, killer cops when they do traffic stops. And so just since May, when the videotaped modern day lynching of George Floyd was videotaped by a teenage girl, and then she posted it and it went viral. Just since May, we have had a lot of other instances of police using unnecessary use of deadly force, police bullying people on the street during traffic stops, or just walking down the street. We've seen videotaped instances of police bullying protesters. And so 12 million people watched that George Floyd modern day lynching video by a Minneapolis police officer who held him down until he died. They also watched 3 other police officers hold him down, and while another police officer stood guard. So it sparked thousands of protests. As you know, you might have been a part of some of those protests in your own way, because we all have a part to play, a role to play in bringing these injustices to light. So for the people who are being bullied and for those who stand in trying to bring attention to those bullying instances. A lot of police officers and some state legislators don't want you to have the right to videotape them. So they're using the wiretapping laws that are in each state to keep you from doing that. Now, some of you, while you're coming into the conversation, we're talking about your right to videotape police in the line of duty. So please be sure to like and share and subscribe to my videos. And so the next time I post a video, you'll be one of the first ones to know. So this video, the protesting, has brought to light a lot of other instances where police acted with unjust, deadly force against unarmed Black people. Just since George Floyd's death, before George Floyd's death, let's look at a few. Of course, everybody knows about Breonna Taylor's shooting in Kentucky, Elijah McClain's death in Colorado. There was Trayford Pearland's shooting in Louisiana, Jacob Blake shooting in Wisconsin, and then there was Daniel Prude's death in New York. Those are just five, just a handful of instances that probably would not have seen the light of day had a teenage girl not had the courage to videotape police holding down George Floyd until he died and then posted it. So we need people who have the courage to pull out a cell phone and record it and post it, and even under the intimidation that is sure to come from the police. Now, these wiretapping laws in individual states, so they're different in each state. Some states have a what they call a one-party consent law. The one-party consent law simply says that one of the individuals in the conversation is the only person that needs to consent. These laws were initially created to protect private conversations or to protect someone when in a private transaction from their privacy being violated by another person. So in a one-party consent state, that means that if I am a part of the conversation, or if I'm the person who is videotaping, I am the only one who, I don't have to tell everybody else who's involved that I'm recording, as long as I know that I'm being recorded or I am doing the recording. Then there are other states that have the two-party consent law. That means both parties that are being recorded must be knowledgeable and consent to being recorded. So if I'm in a conversation with someone, I have to let them know that it's my intent to record them. And that party could be a group of people or another person. And so that's what is being used. So state legislators are now trying to come up with ways to extend that law to include videotape recordings on the side of the street. Now, never mind that they can record you all day long, you driving up and down the street, you going to the grocery store, you going to the post office. They can record that all day. But now there's a problem when you want to have the same access to record them. And according to your constitutional rights, it is within your right to record the police during their line of duty. So whether they stop somebody on the side of the road, whether it's a protest and they are just out there, the police, whether they've stopped you in a traffic stop, you have the right to record yourself. As a matter of fact, there was a recent video of an attorney who was stopped for a traffic stop and he started to record it. And the police officer told him, turn off that video. You have no right to record me. And then the attorney ended up telling him, it is my right to record you. So the police officers use their intimidation tactics to make you feel as if you have to do what they tell you to do. The same as when sometimes they use intimidation tactics to search your vehicle without just cause. So you have to know the law, because you can't depend on the police officer on the side of the street to tell you the right thing, because essentially they want you to do what they want you to do in that moment. So the real reason that some of these bully, liar, killer cops don't want you to videotape is the same reason why when you turn on the light in a dark room and roaches scatter, because they don't want you to see what they're doing in the dark. So be sure to keep shining the light on these bully, liar, killer cops who want to do what they want to do to Black people, Black and brown people, in the dark, under the cover that nobody is looking. So some people have been arrested for what's called interference with police procedures, or whatever label they put on it. And while none of us wants to be arrested for something that we intend to do as good, or that we certainly had no illegal intent for, just understand that sometimes the sacrifice for the greater good has to happen. And if I'm on the side of the road and I'm recording and I tell a police officer that it's my right to record, and he ends up arresting me for that, then the courts say, the law says that I shouldn't be arrested to begin with, but that those charges certainly that were filed against me will be dropped. And so you got to know the law. As a matter of fact, some of us have gotten to the point where we have in our vehicles the law written out that says it is my right to record. So if you are one of those people who finds yourself in the position of recording police activity a lot, or you're in charge of community policing in your neighborhood, then that might be something that you carry with you, just like you carry your ID. So it is lately, the rules have changed so much, or the attitude towards what is legal has changed so much. You've got some politicians, you've got some police officers, you've got police union representatives who now are openly calling protesters terrorists, domestic terrorists. That's what some of them have gone, and they've gone as far as to call some of us domestic terrorists. Now, they're doing that for a number of reasons. One is they want to portray protesters in a negative way, so that other people will not want to be put into that position of being called a domestic terrorist. Of course, nobody wants to be called that, but just because somebody calls you that doesn't make it true. So they're trying to divide and conquer. If they get in your mind, you, the neighbor, or you, the citizen, who might be thinking what you're seeing in these videos is certainly not something that you agree with, if they can get you to feel like, oh, those people are just so extreme that you won't even go and join them, that you won't even try to videotape, that you won't even try to support freedom of speech, then they have won. So don't believe that these people are domestic terrorists. They are just concerned citizens who have taken upon themselves to stand up for what they know is right, and that is your right as well. That's one thing. And the second reason why they are trying to portray protesters and activists in a negative light is because of your vote. They want you to be afraid. They want you to think that speaking out against corruption, that speaking out against the legalized genocide of Black and brown people, which is what this is all about. They want you to feel like, oh, these people are ruining our way of life, when really Black people in America have been subjected to to the unjustified deadly force against us by police officers and law enforcement for hundreds of years. And so it is just because of the current climate, the current social climate, that we have an opportunity, we have the attention of millions of people around the world, and we're taking advantage of that by showing solidarity in our fight for justice. And if that means that upsets the way of life as that it has been for people who choose to ignore what's going on, then that's what's got to happen. And so that doesn't mean that you should be bullied into voting for certain people because they want you to feel like they have only they can stop it. Because we've heard that before. A presidential candidate, Donald Trump, said things are going on in America and only he can stop it. And from the looks of things, he made it worse. Okay, so he didn't create it, but he certainly didn't make it better. He made it worse. So having said all that, I just want you to know that to pay attention to what's going on in your state legislature just as much as you pay attention to the national politics. Because when federal laws cannot be enacted because most people pay attention to those federal laws and what's going on the federal level, when people who want to change what's going on, when legislators and law enforcement, when they want to oppress people on the local level and they can't get it done on the federal level, they go to the state house. They go through the back door. Just the same way, when we're looking out, you've got your front door all protected. You've got it all wired up. So you got the Ring video on the front door. You got all this stuff going on in the front yard to keep people from coming in through the front door. But smart people, they don't come through the front door. They go through the back door because they know you watching the front door, but the back door is probably real vulnerable right now because you're wasting all your time, using all your time looking at the front door. So the same thing is happening in American politics. When you're paying attention to what presidential nominee Joe Biden said and Kamala Harris, vice presidential nominee Kamala Harris says, when you're paying attention to all the tweets that Donald Trump is talking about, chances are you're not paying attention to what's going on in the state legislature in your individual state. And that's where they're passing the laws that harm you the most. Remember stand your ground laws? When we were so busy looking at what was going on a national level, come to find out there were dozens of states that had stand your ground laws that would allow somebody to claim that they feared for their lives even when they didn't, but they really wanted to just shoot you and kill you. And so you have to pay attention to everything. And I know it's a lot. But applied knowledge is power. So know your state laws, know your federal and local laws, and act accordingly. And remember to keep shining the light in the darkness, because we need each other to bring justice and stop the legalized genocide of Black and brown people in America. And again, to find out to get notified when I post new videos, which normally is on Sundays. So if you can't watch live, you can always come back and watch later. Go to I want you to like and share this video, and I will continue to TriCast on YouTube and Facebook Live and LinkedIn, and I will add platforms as I go. To find out more about the things that I care about, go to the written version of my journal. It's at eurweb.com. Thanks, and you have a super day.